Well, this is the second time I'm doing this vlog. My camera did it again. I get started and suddenly, boom, it just quits. I hope the second time's a charm. To get information out to family and friends that are concerned about my brother Chris, he was in the Indian hospital in Ada. They are moving him by ambulance up to Oklahoma City to the heart hospital up there. And he's going to be in the care of Dr. George Croissant. And the guy saved my life. I'm just going to be blunt about it. Years ago, we had a pool, and I was swimming, got out of the pool, sat down on a bench next to the fire pit to dry off a little bit. I was enjoying just being outside, and I got bit by a mosquito real bad. I mean, it actually left a scar right there that you can't see. I smashed it, and the next day I started having severe chest pain. My son Nick loaded me up, hauled me to the Indian hospital in Ada. They couldn't do anything. They put me on an IV, and they gave me nitro, which helped a little bit, and they couldn't figure it out, so they loaded me up in an ambulance, sent me to the heart hospital in Oklahoma City. I got up there. When they got me out of the ambulance, they wheeled me right into the operating room, and in there was a doctor that I immediately took a liking to. His name's George Croissant, and he said, I need to draw blood first before I do anything else. He did blood, did the analysis on it himself, came back and said, did you get bit by a mosquito recently? And I said, yes, sir. Yesterday I was out sitting after swimming. And he said, you've got West Nile virus, but it went straight to your heart. And I said, that's weird. And he said, that is very strange. But anyway, it caused two of my arteries to collapse. There was no sludge in them. They weren't, covered up in crap, and he put stents in and kept me for a day. And then my oldest adopted son, Dale Fullerton, and my wife Linda came up and got me home. That's my story. My brother Chris has congestive heart failure, and he's up in Oklahoma City will be in the heart hospital. My sister will check on him. She's real good like that. Absolutely perfect sister, I'm just going to tell you. I love her with my whole heart. I love her husband, JD, with my whole heart. And I told her that yesterday. He's a great guy, JD is. But anyway, Chris has had some problems. And anyway, he'll be up there, and he told me he'll call me when he gets in a room and they get him hooked up and do all the things they got to do. But that is what is going on with my brother. But I want to share a story from my past with everybody. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, President Kennedy, was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. I remember that because my little brother's birthday is November 24th. And we lived at 212 Benton Street in Nocona, Texas when all this was happening. My dad was gone on a business trip. He used to take these trips and trade guns, knives, coins, all that stuff, and that's how he made our living, that and painting signs. But anyway, he was gone. His car was gone. My mother's car was still there at the house. They always each had their own vehicle. And my brother Chris and I came home from school. We walked home, and my mother was bawling her eyes out, my late mother, and I said, what's wrong, Mama? And she said, they murdered our president. So she told me all about what took place in Dallas, Texas, and how the president was shot dead and all that. And I remember that real well. I remember dates. I remember every address I've ever lived at, as weird as that sounds. It's like 1405 Farmington Street in Norman, Oklahoma. My dad and mom lived there, my current mom and my siblings. I lived there briefly, but I remember all addresses. It's something that just sticks in my head. And I remember dates, and I remember events. But anyway, we lived in a rock house, and it had a chicken coop and a rock privy in the backyard. It was on a big lot, corner lot. And across the road, and I don't think that house is there anymore. I don't know. I haven't been to Nocona in, well, not since I've been married to Linda. 46 years tomorrow. But anyway, there was this rancher, and he had this pasture across the street from us. And, well, behind us. It butted right up by our house. And the house faced at east, and the pasture was west of our house. Big old barbed wire fence, and there was this big mottled, what I mean by mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E-D, just like a paint horse, only it wasn't a paint. It just had dots and swaths of color. It was a bull, a Texas Longhorn bull. I called him Bully, and he was a bull. He was the only critter out in that pasture. Well, I'll get back to him in a minute. The house we lived in was a 3-bedroom with a little side room, and Mom used one room as a sewing room. They were fairly small rooms. It had a dining room, a kitchen, a living room, 3 bedrooms, and a little other room, and a laundry room and a back porch. It was actually pretty nice. It was rock. But anyway, it had a shade tree lined drive going to it. I remember all that clear as a bell. And anyway, and Mom had a sewing room, she and Daddy had a bedroom, and my brother Chris and I shared a bedroom. And in the extra little room, about half the size of my office, and my office is small, Dad kept guns, knives, arrowheads, Indian beads, coins, all the stuff he collected that he used to trade and make money. Daddy always knew the value of things, but he told me never go in that room. And so this bull, I didn't know what his name was. I called him Bully, and I would sneak carrots and anything else I could over to him, and I'd pick grass, and I'd call him up, and I'd feed him out of my left hand, and I'd pet him with my right hand, right between the eyes on the forehead, and he just loved that. And I considered that bull my friend. I even snuck through the barbed wire and rubbed his neck and his flanks and all that. If he'd have been really mean, I'd have probably been a dead kid, I'm telling you. But he was so gentle and so sweet. And then one day, I call him up to the fence and he doesn't come. I see him laying out in the pasture. And I thought, what? Well, I'll come back. He's sleeping. The next day, he was still laying out there in the same place, and I snuck into my dad's room and borrowed his really strong binoculars and went and sat on the back stoop and watched my friend Bully. Well, I kind of, in hindsight, understand maybe what killed him, and I'll describe the process of creatures eating away at him in a minute. I have a friend named Daniel Arms that has Arms Family Homestead, and he has a brother-in-law named Dusty, and I don't know Dusty's last name. He has cross timbers bison, and here a while back we were in a really bad drought here in Oklahoma, and the long and short of that, Dusty lost a yearling cow and he couldn't figure it out. And so he and Daniel got in side by sides and drove that pasture around. Dusty has several pastures that he keeps his buffalo in, his bisons. It's what he does for a living, I think. But anyway, they found where the cow had been eating, and it was Johnson grass. Well, they now know that during drought conditions on the young shoots, Johnson grass sends toxins up the pith in the stems, and it will kill livestock. Well, I believe that's what happened to Bully. But I sat there and I watched him, and he first I watched the vultures circling, buzzards and vultures, and then soon they landed on him. I was watching the binoculars. Then I saw coyotes come up, chase the vultures off, and they'd eat. Well, nature disposes of a carcass real quick, and the coyotes carried off the bones. There wasn't much left but hide and those big old longhorns. Well, one day while I was watching all that, it took about 10 days. Daddy had gotten back, and he came out in the back porch, and he caught me using his binoculars. "What are you doing? Didn't I tell you not to ever go in that room?" "Yeah, Daddy, you did, but," and he said, "No buts." And I said, "My friend died." And he said, "What friend?" And I pointed over there and I said, "Here, look." And he looked, and there's that bull, and he knew about my relationship with that bull. Well, Daddy sat down on the stoop with me, and he watched, and he handed binoculars to me, he looked at me and said, "You really loved that bull, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he hugged me and he said, "I'm not angry with you, just next time ask, okay?" Well, that was my daddy. He was compassionate. But what's that got to do with anything? Well, I feel like my brother Chris is old Bully. He's laying down in a pasture and all the vultures are circling. My brother has some assets. I don't know what all he has, and I don't want any of it, and I'm hoping and praying he'll get better. But they're going to have to get him someplace close to a hospital to live. It's not that he's not welcome here. He's eternally welcome here, but the problem is he needs to be where he can get to a hospital quick. And the hospital we have in Murray County is not much to brag about. It really isn't. They have good staff and everything, but they're short-staffed, and it is a limited-use hospital. And the nursing homes over here are an absolute joke. There is an assisted living center over here. It's a joke, but he needs to be over by Ada so he's closer, for a while anyway. They've got to see if they can get his heart functioning better. Right now he's at 15%. They've got him on some stuff, and I believe it's pronounced Nestro. I asked the nurses, and they said, yes, it's in a drip. So they're going to keep that IV on him up to Oklahoma City. He'll get up there, and Dr. Croissant will look at him. But I'm hoping he gets through this and doesn't die. But what if he does? Then it'll be up to family to get him buried. The tribe will help. And then it's taking care of the things he left behind. My sister said that Chambrian and I should get all of Chris's stuff, and I told her, I believe I did, I don't want anything he's got. I really don't. That is all Chambry's. I'll help her liquidate it and help her with the money. All we can do is what we can do, and that is the extent of how things are. And we'll take care of everything as it happens. It's been a drain on my sister and her family. It's been a drain on my wife and I and our family. We cleaned out the den. It's in storage right now so that we could make a place for him to stay. But And like I stated, it's not that he's not welcome, he is. And I told him, consider our address his permanent home, and he has. One of these days he'll be healthy enough, we'll get him an RV, park it up there, and hook water and sewage and electric up to it and all that stuff. That's easy to do. But in the meantime, he's got to get to the point that he can function. Really, he could use this as a permanent address, but considering all the things wrong with him, he really needs to live in Ada. I haven't had opportunity, and I will take opportunity to look and see what's available. It's like Chris said, it's got to be cheap. Well, got to see what to do to get his Social Security going. I don't even know what his Social Security number is. My sister Lisa is extremely capable, and I'll tell you, she's as smart as a tree full of owls. That is my opinion, and I'm pretty knowledgeable on people. Used to make my living reading them. Lisa is extremely good people. She and her husband both are. Her children are. Told her to give Evan a hug for me. I love them. Her daughter Joey, I'd love to see her one of these days. One of these days, we're going to have a family reunion somewhere and just get everybody together. Well, folks, I've got to get off of here. I actually have a job to do today, and I've got to go pick children up here after a while. But I love everyone watching this. I want God to bless you, and I want you to be kind, like that sign up there says. We're supposed to have severe weather today. Be careful. Love you. God bless you, and bye.